More talk of budget season, right? The state budget, more than a month past due. And now Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Speaker Julie Menon pushing back their own deadline for the city financial plan. And no matter the delay, the issue at hand remains. The city faces a multi-billion-dollar budget gap, and the city wants the state's help in closing that gap by taxing the city's wealthiest residents. We've been talking about it right here on this show. That idea not going over too well with the wealthiest New Yorkers, including billionaire Ken Griffin, who was the target of the mayor in a video touting a pied-à-terre tax. And that's far from the only thing the mayor is pushing to relieve the financial burden from the average New Yorker. Now, there's a new position in the administration, the Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice. And that Deputy Mayor's name is Julie Su. Today, she is going on the record. And Deputy Mayor, great to have you here.
It's so nice to be here.
First time on Picks and Politics, first time that there's a Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice. So for a New Yorker who's kind of looking at all of this and hearing all this stuff about budget talk and so on and so forth, how does this new position benefit them?
Well, I think this new position is really relevant to the lives of everyday New Yorkers because for the first time ever, the Mayor and City Hall have a focus on ensuring that the economy works for everybody. The idea is that, economic justice should not be abstract. Mm-hmm. It's about a paycheck you can rely on, a job where you feel secure, where you can, invest in something and feel the real benefits of it, and where you can afford to live in the city. Yeah. And so my job is to deliver on that affordability agenda for the mayor and ensure that everything in the economy benefits not just the few, but all New Yorkers.
But under all of this talk of affordability is this threat right here of this deficit, which can really affect so many different avenues and programs. So part of your portfolio is looking at that deficit and figuring out if there are cuts coming. Are there?
I mean, there's no question that the fiscal crisis that we inherited is a tremendous challenge. We are both trying to be as ambitious and bold as New Yorkers deserve, as the voters sent a message about when they elected this mayor, but also to be really fiscally responsible in a time when we are having to look at how to balance a budget without enough revenue. It's everybody's job to figure that out, so we are trying to find cuts where we can without compromising service. Right. We are, we need to enforce laws so that everybody plays by the same set of rules, but those also have some revenue generating benefits as well, so we're looking at that. We know that there can be more efficiency inside of government, but we don't want to compromise what New Yorkers can expect of government by saying, we just don't have the money to do it. So it's not going to be easy, but we're leaning into it.
And there's been a lot of talk about taxing the wealthy, and the governor had been a hard no on raising income taxes, but the pied-à-terre tax is something that both the mayor and the governor agreed on, set to bring in $500 million. But there seems to be this issue now, and there's a kind of battle brewing between the mayor and billionaire Ken Griffin, who the governor met with specifically because of the issue here. What did you make of the issue at hand with some of these billionaires now fighting back?
So I think one of the things that issue demonstrates is what is possible when the city and the state work together to address the real problems and invest in New York City. I also think that this is not an issue about one individual. This is an issue about a systemic problem of New Yorkers, especially working New Yorkers, those who've always had to struggle being driven out of the city they love because they can't afford to live here. And we can do better, right? We've had an expanding skyline while working people have had to live ever-shrinking lives. And in this administration, we're not going to pretend that that's enough. So this is not about any one individual. It really is about trying to create a city that works for everybody in it. Yeah,
but the point here is if Griffin says we billionaires are going to leave because we don't want to pay this or we feel like we're being pushed out, how does that affect does it have a domino effect on the rest of the economy if you lose that income?
I'll say two things, and one of them is that I think there's a lot of noise anytime you are in a position like this and you are working to govern, and part of drowning out that noise and focusing on the real work is about separating what's true from what's not. Of course, we love that people love New York City and want to stay in New York City, billionaires included. At the same time, the mayor has been very clear that the real drivers of exodus from New York City is not on billionaires, it's on working people. It's on people who can't afford to live, can't afford to raise a family, are making choices they don't want to make because we haven't done enough, right, systemically to address the cost of living. We recently did a report that showed that 62% of New Yorkers cannot afford the true cost of living in the city. That's not an isolated problem. That's 5 million people. And the fact that it's being driven out is also bad for business, right? If you can't have a workforce that lives near enough work to want to come to the office daily, right? There's real policy challenges that arise because of the affordability issues. So we hope that we can create a New York City that everyone's going to want to stay in.
I do want to talk about the affordability then, because it is one of your chief concerns, and there's been a lot of talk about, yes, the billionaires, but there are people who are looking for affordable housing and saying that there's not enough affordable housing. But what is affordable housing? Because some of it you still need to make 6 figures to qualify for. And so for you, and looking at that kind of portfolio of what's out there, what is an affordable housing?
Yeah, it's such an important question. I'm a new New Yorker, so I've just lived this. I moved to New York City because of my deep belief in this mayor's vision and my love for the city. And finding a place to live is a challenge. Finding one that you can afford. You know, people should not have to choose between whether they're going to make rent or whether they're going to be able to put food on the table. So affordable housing is one of our signature commitments, and we know that a big part of the issue is supply.
Yeah.
Right? Just having enough housing so that just having more supply will actually help to bring down the cost. But we also have to be intentional about, you know, what it takes for someone to actually afford to live in the city. Now, part of that is about bringing down costs. That's why our commitment to housing, our commitment to childcare, our commitment to groceries. But it's also about bringing up what people make and what people have and what people can keep in their pockets. So that's another big part of our priority, is to ensure that when working people work, they get to keep more of their income. They're not subject to wage theft. They're not subject to junk fees. And so we've got to solve on both sides of that equation.
Yeah, but who qualifies then for an affordable unit?
Yeah, so there's both the issue of affordable housing for those who simply can't afford any housing at all.
Yeah.
I also, because I'm in the space of talking to working people, know that there's a need for like workforce housing, right? So that you have your people who, you know, at one point were making a middle class income, but now can't afford things. Teachers, nurses, firefighters, right? All of them. And so we've got to address all of those issues. Artists, right? Within economic justice is arts and culture, museums and theater, and part of that is making sure that those who make art, create in the city, can actually live in the city too.
There's this idea of affordability and whether or not the minimum wage needs to be raised because of it. There's a city council bill now at forth to raise it from $17 higher, somewhere around $30 mark in the years to come. Something that would need layers of approval. But is that the right track to make the city more affordable so people can get paid more to stay here?
We're watching that city council proposal. The mayor has been clear that we definitely need some relief for working people. Beyond the minimum wage, that's also about their ability to organize and have a real voice on the job, right? The mayor has talked about union density being really important to affordability. And in a union, working people often can negotiate for wages that are higher than the minimum. So I think it's not one silver bullet that's going to solve the issue. And we're looking at everything that we have, including our policy levers. Obviously, that issue is right before the city council at the moment, but looking at ways that we can support workers having more power on the job.
Watching it, but do you support it?
Well, I'm going to say it this way. You know, we happen to be here on May Day. This is International Workers' Day. And so, we want to send a very clear message to the working people of New York City that in this administration, they are seen, they are heard, and we are going to advocate for them. I'm not going to get ahead of the policy, right? That will come before the mayor at some point. But I think affordability, as I already said, does have two sides of the equation. We're trying to address both of them, both costs and making sure that people have enough in their pockets to breathe a little bit easier at the end of each day.
Great conversation with you. We're out of time here, but I want to have you back to talk more about job numbers and things like that. So come on back soon, okay?
I would love that.